Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to ask you, obviously the movie has a big star in it with Sean Astin.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to know if you purposefully cast him as a wink to Lord of the Rings because there's a magic ring in the movie. If that was your reasoning behind that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a funny story. So Sean and I have known each other for coming up on 15 years.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I met
Okay.
Sean in probably 2011 when I was working on my first documentary, which was called Video Games the Movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a freshman effort for me, but turned out good. It's kind of a love letter to video games. And I had met him during that, interviewed him, and then he ended up becoming the narrator for that documentary. And then we just became buddies. We just hit it off.
Okay.
But Sean has been he's either done voiceover or been on camera or produced or all three for all of my documentary projects the past 15 years.
That's amazing.
And as a part of that, I've just been, close to him and his family, and so when he had always encouraged me to direct, like not documentary, because documentary is obviously my wheelhouse, and I've done that for 20 plus years now
Mm-hmm.
at Media Juice, my production studio. But he said, he always encouraged me to direct, narrative. He said you'd be a good director. Um, but directing a movie in practice versus in theory are two different things. You need money. You need to quote Orson Welles, a painter needs a paintbrush, a filmmaker needs an army.
Mm-hmm.
And once we got a script that I liked, which was Matter of Time,
Mm-hmm.
shared it with Sean, and he said, "That's it." He said, "I want to be in it. I want to produce it." And so once we had him signed on, we were able to kind of secure our funding, and we're off to the races.
Oh, cool. What's it like working with him as an actor and his daughter at the same time, like both of them
Yeah,
as a team? Yeah, that's really cool.
yeah. Sean's a pro. He's
Yeah.
Sean's definitely a movie star.
Uh-huh.
So he's a professional. But also, Sean doesn't suffer fools. So if there's something that like isn't making sense to him, uh, whether that's in the script, which happened, he gave a lot of feedback on the script, and we addressed all of his notes and got to a point where he was like, yes, this works, this is good. Um, to then being on set, I'll tell you a funny story. So it's like day of, we had all of his costumes. My wardrobe person, Catherine Baumgartner, she's great. We had it all lined out, ready to go, from his like Onyx Guild to the toy store sort of frumpy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and day of, he said, "I had an idea for my wardrobe." Excuse me. And we all kind of held our breath, and I was like, "Do you?" Like we're shooting in 30 minutes. And he said, "What if what if he wore these t-shirts that every one of them has a different kind of nerdy thing on it, like a hashtag or a question mark or an ellipses?" And to my costume designer's credit, she was like, "Yep, we can do it." And they sent a runner to buy some t-shirts in his size, and they got them, and they all started drawing them, and that's what he wore in the movie.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So, yeah, Sean's a lot of fun. You gotta kind of match his energy though. He's excited, he has ideas, he wants to collaborate,
Yeah.
but ultimately, and you tell me, I thought it's like it serves the project.
What was working with Ali like?
Allie's great. Yeah, she's a total pro, knows her lines backwards and forwards and everybody else's. Um, excuse me, drink of water. And as you saw, they only had a few scenes together there in the warehouse. Um, but it's great. Yeah, she's a delight. She's her father's daughter. similar energy.
So I loved all the video game references in the movie. Like I caught a lot of them. Um, but I wanted you to tell me like which ones are your favorite, which ones did you like to include? I think I might have caught on the video games looked a little bit to me like Red Dead Redemption. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know if you intentionally did that. Um,
I think I've always enjoyed apocalyptic games, Dying Light and Last of Us and
uh-huh.
um, Left 4 Dead, all that kind of stuff, and I'm from Texas.
Okay.
So I think when we wrote the line, which really just was on a whim when he's pitching the game, it's Rambo meets the apocalypse in Texas.
Hmm.
We kind of backwards engineered the game from that line. That's literally the whole summary of the game. Because the game itself doesn't, we built it in Unreal Engine, but it's all held up with duct tape or super glue. Like you couldn't actually play it. Those are all
Right, yeah.
scenes that we animated. Um, so yeah, we just kind of created a Rambo meets the apocalypse in Texas, which it does look like Red Dead and does uh yeah, that's interesting you caught on to that.
Yeah, some of the zombies look like they're from Resident Evil or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. uh, um, what other references could players look for in the film for those who haven't seen it yet, like without spoiling anything?
right, right, right. Um, Lots of references to, Mario Kart,
Hmm.
Rainbow Road. Um, Aaron, can you give me 30 seconds? I'm gonna just grab a water real quick.
Sure.
I don't want to cough your ear off the whole time here. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, definitely Rainbow Road. You know, Charlie's sort of a child of the 90s. So,
Hmm.
if you look closely in his bedroom, whether it's when he's young or gotten older, he's got all of his favorites, Doom and Quake and Duke Nukem and all of that fun stuff.
Um, what about the video game animated sequences in the film? I thought they were neat. How did you come up with the idea of creating those? Like the ones where it transitioned into like the computer animation stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Kind of, the old saying, necessity's the mother of invention.
Hmm.
We're definitely micro budget film, bootstrapping it, shot it all here in Dallas. Um, and so while we wanted to have a lot of, it'd be great to have a picture car and have our actors travel from, Charlie's house to work and and on and on. That's really expensive. Traveling shots can add a lot of complexity and a lot of budget to a film.
Gotcha.
And so we thought, how do we get the traveling shots that we need, but don't break the bank? And I just thought, well, in service of the concept of the movie, which is he's a game designer, um, what if we travel, but we created this sort of blocky 16-bit, 32-bit animation versions of Charlie
Hmm.
and his friends, and we just animate them. Um, so we kind of did it as a test, and pretty quickly the whole team looking at it was like, "Oh yeah, this is cool. This is additive."
Yeah, yeah.
Which hopefully it sounds like you liked it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. It was fun. Something I liked about the movie was it was very fast paced. Um, like and zappy, especially with Charlie's voiceovers. Um, and like um and the transitions and the montages and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
very much, if you look back through my body of work, that's very much my style.
uh-huh.
And that's probably, as a result, partly of being I don't know if you know much about my agency, Media Juice.
No, tell me about it.
So Media Juice Studios was founded in 2004,
Okay.
and we're probably most well known for producing video game commercials
Uh-huh.
and video game documentaries. And so when you produce video game commercials for 20 years, it kind of creates a little bit of a bit in you, and like things need to be fast, things need to be zappy, things need to be transitions. Don't let people get bored. Um, so that's definitely informed me as a filmmaker, as a documentary filmmaker, as a narrative filmmaker, and definitely as evidenced in matter of time.
Right, right. Um, so what led you to create movies like that, to get into creating video games and video game movies and documentaries and yeah, what led you in that direction?
Yeah, so rewind to a million years ago, in 2001. So 2001 to 2004, I worked at a company called Funimation.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think they're no, I think it's now been purchased by Crunchyroll, if I memory serves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, me and my team there brought Dragon Ball Z over from Japan to the US. And in doing that, I met everybody in the entertainment industry, video game industry, consumer products industry, toy, because everybody wanted to make products based on Dragon Ball Z because it was so popular
Right.
at the time on Toonami and
Yeah, I remember that.
Cartoon Network. Yeah, yeah.
I watched it a bit.
Long, 5 minute scenes separated by 2 minute power up sequences.
Right.
Um, his power level's over 9,000. Um, and so after doing that for about 4 years, I had always had the creative itch since I was a kid. I always grew up watching, Walt Disney leaning on his desk, talking about how they made Bambi and, what went into that. And, um, you know, didn't know, I always thought I'd be an animator for Walt Disney as a kid. I was like, I want to draw pictures, be an animator. Um, but in working at Funimation, I was able to scratch the itch a little bit in that you're working with the anime and the manga and the partners, and I was working with the video game companies that were creating like Dragon Ball Z Budokai and all those great games, but still wasn't really creating myself. Um, and so out of that came the desire to kind of start my own thing. So I started my own agency, Media Juice, and called some of the video game companies that I had worked with at Funimation and just said, "Hey, I'm I mean, honestly, because that's what was most interesting to me, and also know that video game companies have budgets, have more of a budget than a local car dealership."
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, started Atari was our first client, and one video game company led to two, led to 10, and that kind of became our niche. And we've branched out to do all other stuff too, corporate work and documentary stuff, but still do quite a bit with the games industry. Yeah.
So, if you were to adapt a video game to a movie, which one would you choose and why?
Oh my gosh. The long storied history of licensed video games into movies for the long.
Yeah, they're not. There are some TV shows, include TV shows in that question, because like Last of Us is fantastic,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
but Fallout is really good.
Yeah.
Um, so it can be done,
Yeah.
successfully.
That's what I was going to say is that those two examples exactly are showing that it can be done. You have to hire competent, talented screenwriters and filmmakers to do it. It can't
Right.
be a business deal, which is so many times or the failed attempts at that. I think Resident Evil has done a decent job in that franchise on features. Some of them are not great, but
Hmm.
um, for me, gosh, there's so many. Obviously, they're doing Mario. I've always thought that Contra would be a great movie,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
but do it in that 80s retro kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl
Predator, yeah.
Predator style,
Right.
Um, and Mega Man, I've always been partial to Mega Man. I just think it'd be cool to do a real live action though, not animated. Um, and probably a dozen others if I sat and thought about it for yeah.
Is Mega Man your favorite video game, or do you have a favorite one that you go back to
Uh,
constantly?
Probably as a kid, I mean, it would have been Super Mario Brothers. So I played and played and played that, speed ran before speed running was a thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's evolved. Probably as an adult, The Last of Us is probably my favorite. Um, you know, just such an amazing cinematic narrative experience with amazing gameplay too.
I agree. It's great. I can't wait for part three.
Oh my gosh. I wasn't a fan of Abby, but I got past it.
Yeah, it's hard to play as her after what she what she did to Joel, that's for sure.
No, that's I know Neil Druckmann, and I saw him at not too long after that came out, and I said, "Man, you're torturing us."
Mhm. Uh, okay, so we've talked about video games. I'm also into tabletop role-playing games as well, like board games and stuff.
Yeah,
Are you a fan of D&D and
I
systems
am.
like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I've never been a huge MOBA for your audience, sort of top-down battle arenas.
Hmm.
I've never been a huge turn-based RPG in games, like Final Fantasy and stuff. I respect it, and I've played some of those games. RTSs and turn-based stuff is just not my go-to. It's really more like action adventure, Last of Us, Uncharted
Right.
type stuff. But when it comes to a tabletop RPG, um, I have enjoyed some campaigns with some friends. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, what was it like implementing Dungeons and Dragons into the movie? Um, you got the giant D20 dice ball,
Uh-huh.
and the whole Onyx Guild set up, and like, obviously Gibbs being the DM with his like cloak and stuff, and they're all supporting each other. Like, did you write that into the film, or you were part of the writing team, correct?
Yes, yes. So the script that we optioned, it's funny. Chris Dowling, who was a buddy of mine, who's a filmmaker, he wrote the script with a friend of his.
Hmm.
And really, he told me he's like after he read he actually didn't even read it. He just watched a rough cut with us early on, and he said, "Man, the only thing you kept was the title and the characters' names." Because we really changed it. Originally, it wasn't a toy shop; it was a comic book shop.
Uh-huh.
Originally, Charlie was not an aspiring game designer; he was an aspiring comic book artist.
Okay.
So we changed everything wholesale, and during that changing process, it was all in service of the theme of the film, and the theme of the film is self versus tribe. So Charlie
Yeah.
learns the lesson, as I'm sure you saw,
Right.
of like it's better, as they say in Legend of Zelda,
It's
it's
dangerous alone to take this. Yes.
yeah, it's dangerous to go alone.
Right.
And that's a lesson that a lot of young men need to learn and have learned, and that I learned in my own life. So, as a proxy for that, we were like, okay, Gibbs needs some kind of community. It can't just be him as the toy shop owner and servicing his customers. He needs a real community to show that he values that so that he can then express those values to Charlie in real
Hmm.
terms. And so we had a lot of different versions of it of like he's got like a men's group or he's got like a this or that. But we're like, well, he owns a toy shop. He would have the most epic setup of ever because he's got all the toys,
Hmm.
for D&D. So it kind of came out of that. And we're like, all right, it'll be called the Onyx Guild. he'll be the DM, and yeah, that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah, I thought the sequence where he builds up the whole thing in like 2 hours like looked really splat, but it only takes a second for Charlie was pretty cool, you
Yeah,
know. But yeah, it's a pretty amazing setup on that table.
yeah, yeah. That was a Whiz Kids, who's actually a client of ours.
Uh-huh, yeah.
I called them up and told them, hey, this is what we did. We wrote this in, and they just sent us all the things.
Okay, so a couple more questions. I want to circle back. Uh, how did you find Myles Erlick, right?
Mhm.
Uh, how did you find? I thought he was amazing in the movie.
Yeah,
Great energy, really charismatic, really likable, even when he starts getting a little jerky towards his friends, you know. But like, what was it like working with him, and like, how did you find him to cast him in
yeah.
the film?
The working with Miles is a joy. I mean, he told me when I first day on script, he said I read the script 58 times. He knew his lines and everyone else's lines. Um, Honestly, it was a recommendation from one of our producers, Ian Campbell. We were getting real late in the game. We had looked at dozens and dozens of Charlies, and where it's like some people would have a good look, but the performance wouldn't be there, and some people would have great performance vibes, but they just didn't have the right look for Charlie. Uh,
Hmm.
we were 2 weeks away from shooting. We still hadn't cast our Charlie, and my producer Ian Campbell had worked with Miles uh, recently and just said, "Hey, I worked with this kid. He's a musician. He's super popular on Instagram. Maybe just let him do a table read, audition." So we auditioned him. He sent us a video, and just immediately I was like, "Yep, that's him. There he is.
Yeah,
That's the one." And he delivered. He
you
was,
definitely did. Yeah.
yeah. He's got that.
Uh,
He's got that. Matter of Time's kind of Back to the Future meets video games is what I always.
uh-huh.
And he's got that Marty McFly energy of just, gotta do what I gotta do.
Right, right. Uh, so last question, what's next for you? Like what imprint do you want to leave on the industry if you were to like what do you want people to take away from your films or like what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
It's a great question, man. I'll speak to the legacy question first. Legacy is always tricky, but if I had to surmise it, it's that it's so much less important what you're doing or where you're going, and more important who you're going with and who you're doing it with.
Like the tribe.
The tribe, exactly.
Right.
And it's like, it's not about what movie you're seeing with your friends. It's about the hang. It's like
Mhm.
you giving and receiving from them. We're all vessels. We're all being poured into and need to pour out of ourselves to the people around us because that's what life's about. Life's a journey, not a destination. And yeah, I think that theme. I think probably shows itself in a lot of my documentaries and docuseries. Um, so if there was a legacy, that would probably be what I would want it to be. And then my next project is a working title. It's called Love in Hall H,
Okay.
and it's just think Notting Hill meets nerd culture.
Okay.
So yeah, we're working on it, writing the script now, and
So it's narrative and it's another narrative. Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, and I've got a litany of documentaries and docuseries that are also in development. We announced this last summer. We're doing a sequel to my first documentary, Video Games the Movie. That'll be called Video Games the Next Level.
Gotcha.
And we're working on I can't say the name of it, but we are working on a gaming related IP project with Warner Brothers.
Ooh.
Uh,
Okay.
uh, and Yeah, a handful of other docs and docuseries that are sort of just in development that we haven't really announced yet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for this interview today. It was nice meeting you. I really enjoyed your movie, and I'm looking forward to any other projects.
Yeah, Aaron, good to talk to you, man. I really appreciate you watching the movie.
Thank you for giving me the chance to.
Yeah, man. Well, have a great day, and yeah, maybe we'll talk again on the next project.
That would be awesome. All right. Bye.